Hello and welcome to
Pop Off, Sis! The show where we talk about life, current events, and, well, ourselves.
I'm your co-host, Lydia.
And I'm your co-host, Margot. Welcome to this week's episode. Hi! Welcome, guys.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Hello. I'm very excited today because Lydia and I are in a new space. Well, we've been in this space before it was fully finished, but we're in a new recording space and it's so nice. And we don't have to do anything. I don't have to pick up a finger to lift anything. And it's just so wonderful.
Yeah, the setup is great. It's just so much more conducive to Pop Off, Sis, so we appreciate the space. Also, just before jumping into this episode, I just wanted to mention that Margot and I have been so happy with some responses we've been getting from the last episode that was about separating art from the artist. If you haven't listened, that's episode 8. Please go and listen. But we just each had a lot of people reach out to us that we don't usually hear from that really enjoyed that episode. And it was just nice to know that some of our more controversial conversations are perhaps the most interesting.
I was surprised, delightfully surprised. And I just love that episode. I think it's definitely one of my favorites. So yeah, go check it out if you haven't had a listen yet, because I think it's really interesting and very different from all the other ones we've done this far.
And with that, Rose and Thorn time.
Rose and Thorn. So Lydia, what's your rose this week?
So my rose this week is kind of deep, but it's a good thing that I just feel like I'm discovering new layers of myself, kind of like the petals on a rose, you know? Anyway, I just feel like I'm discovering new layers of myself emotionally. And I don't know, I have had a lot of things happen recently that just have made me realize that, I don't know, I guess it's part of growing up, but I just feel like I'm changing a little bit, and hopefully for the better.
That's amazing. I'm gonna cry over here.
Don't cry.
You got me all teary-eyed.
And then my thorn is that it's kind of been a shitty week, just generally. I feel like I'm weirdly starting to overthink all of my reactions with people, and I don't know why. Like this past week especially, for some reason, like if there was any kind of like, not even awkwardness, I don't know, I'm just like, I had like a very hypersensitive week. It's really hard to explain, but I was just like thinking like, oh, was I like too harsh in the way I said this? Or I was just like in my head, I guess. So on one hand it was good, but on another hand it was kind of just like annoying and too, I don't know. It was like a very sensitive week.
Yeah. Sounds like some social anxiety in there too. Yeah.
And of course when it's like a new feeling, it's probably scary. So that's I think I'm getting over it for now.
We love new emotional layers though. That's awesome. But yeah, it can maybe also introduce new vulnerability, which is always scary to process at first. I'm always here to support you, Lydia. Me and our 2 viewers. No, I'm just kidding.
4, Margot.
4.
We've been over this.
Oh,
we both have a mother and
you
father.
You think my dad listens to every single episode?
I want to know Arno's
Arno
reaction.
is tuned out. I think Arno tuned out on like episode 2. Okay. Kathy, however, she'll listen to like 5 minutes and then like, you know, yeah. Shout out Kathy.
Shout out Kathy. Oh.
My rose this week, well, I guess it's more from last week. And by the time this comes out, I can't do the math, guys. I really can't. But very unexpectedly, my boyfriend, who I'm in a long distance relationship with, did some really cute things for Valentine's Day for me. We are both hella stressed right now, and so I was just kind of like, don't worry about Valentine's Day. Like, I don't have the time to plan to get you anything. I was gonna order him cupcakes from his favorite bakery in New York, the Nut-Free Bakery, but it just, I literally don't know his apartment address, and it's not under his name, it's under his roommate's grandma's name, and I was just like, I don't have the time to figure this out. So we're just kind of like, oh, Valentine's Day won't happen. And then literally I had to work 2 shows that day. It was a very long day. I get home from my first one and I get a text from my phone from my apartment's leasing office, and they say you have a package. And I was like, that's weird. I didn't order anything. And I get down there and it's these like little flowers in this cute vase with little balloons attached to it, and it was so sweet.
Wow.
And then there was a little note in there. It was so cute, and I was so touched, and somehow still haven't killed the flowers. Listen.
Oh.
It's been a week.
And
they're still living. So,
have you watered them?
Yes, I watered them 3 times.
Oh, great.
I think you're supposed to water them daily, but you know,
oh, wow.
3 is good for me.
That's awesome.
So then that was really sweet, and I thought that was it. And then I shit you not, I'm sitting in my dressing room. The show's starting in like 30 minutes. I'm doing all my pre-show duties as a dresser on this show, and all of a sudden I see like one of our good friends, Josh, peek in the room, and I'm like, what the fuck is he doing here? Like, why is he backstage at a show that I'm working on? And he has a little box of treats. And my boyfriend ordered me, one of our friends started this like baking business, and he ordered me one of her like Valentine's Day boxes and got our friend Josh to personally deliver it to me backstage at my show. And I lost my shit.
You did?
Yes, I like couldn't speak for like 5 minutes. But like, listen, it's me, okay?
Right.
That is surprising. And it was just so sweet and so unexpected. And this is gonna sound so cheesy, but it's been very stressful lately. But I feel like I wake up and then I look at like the flowers and I'm like, oh, like it just gives me happy, giddy feelings, you know?
Yeah, that's so sweet. And just the fact that he came backstage exactly to where you were, the friend, like that is the details. Oh,
the details matter so
that
much,
so
and it was so sweet.
And it was more than the flowers. Like he had 2 things planned, in a stressful week. And the fact that he was stressed too and took the time to do that,
and he had to coordinate all of that, and he's 200 miles away.
Right. You know what, Jake? 2 big ass hearts to you. Okay, we love you. Okay,
we love you. I feel like I can't follow that up with a thorn because it's so nice, but I guess my main thorn right now is that I'm just really overwhelmed. So by the time this comes out, I think this will be March 2nd. So we'll be 1 day past when like essentially all summer internship deadlines are some are like a couple days after March 1st, but I'm trying to get them all in by March 1st. I told myself I would do 40 and I've submitted 6. So I haven't done very many, and I'm trying to be in New York, and New York is very competitive, and that's why I'm trying to apply to so many. I do have an interview next week, a Skype interview for a TV development internship. So I'm excited about that, but I have to prepare for that. I have to send in all these applications. The first weekend of March, I'm flying to Boston to do these huge auditions. And then just regular schoolwork, like I have an essay due on Monday, you know, I have a speech on Tuesday. Like all these things are piling up, and so I do feel very overwhelmed, and I just cannot wait for spring break. So that would be my thorn. So guys, Harry Styles was robbed. The mega pop star, the former One Direction member, the hard eyes, the singer, he gave us a little bit of that's what makes you beautiful. I forget the rest of the words. I was a One Direction fan. Yeah, I wrote One Direction fan fiction. That was my freshman year of high school. I wrote some fan fiction.
Why did everyone like think he and Zayn were dating? Why was that?
No. Listen, do you want to know what happened in my fan fiction? Listen. It was about me and my cousin. My cousin also wrote fan fiction. Okay, we did it together. We would post it on YouTube, like in the descriptions of the videos. And then the video, like I made a collage on iMovie of like the pictures of all the different characters. But of course, Louis and Harry were fighting over me in my fan fiction. I mean, but the long-term plan was that I was going to end up with Louis. But I was currently, I kissed Harry Styles at the top of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, that's a good story.
It was
he a good kisser?
Oh, yeah, he was a good kisser. But they all wanted me, essentially, is what I'm saying. But back to the story. Harry Styles was robbed at knife point in London. last Friday. So while I was having a very romantic Valentine's Day, he was not having as good as the one that I had, I would have to imagine. So someone came up to him with a knife and asked him to hand over cash. I was kind of shook by this because I was like, doesn't he go everywhere probably with security, bodyguards? I mean, I guess it would be really frustrating if you were a celebrity to have to always go somewhere with somebody watching you. But I just feel like it's really bizarre that he was like fully by himself and got robbed. I mean, it was nighttime, but...
And the Billboard article said that he played it pretty cool, which is like, ooh, it's so eerie. Like, can you imagine? Like, I'm sure he was shaken up by it.
I'm sure he was shaken up, and then a couple days later he performed at the BAFTAs, and it's just like, when you're that level of rich and somebody comes up to you with a knife and is like, give me your money, you're like, okay, fucking take it. Like, here's $200. You don't know what's in my bank account, you know?
You know what's more funny? Like, if he didn't have any cash on him, he's like, I don't have any money. And they're like hell, you don't have any money? You know? Like, are you kidding? Like, the robber's like, all right, level with me. Like, I know who you are.
Obviously not funny that he got robbed.
Not at all.
But I'm just saying, in a situation like that, I mean, I feel like most people would probably give over your cash unless you like try and fight that. It's just like scary.
Yeah.
And the same night, his ex-girlfriend, Caroline Flack, they had dated when he had been on X Factor with One Direction. She tragically took her own life. So the night that he was robbed, and then the next day he wakes up and finds out his ex-girlfriend had passed away. So, and this was all before he performed at the BAFTAs. So it seems like it's been a pretty traumatizing week for him. Sending him good vibes.
Definitely. Good vibes. Hope he can get any help that he needs to deal with this and just that he's okay. So next up, season 3 of American Idol just started. I don't know if you watch. Do you watch, Margot?
I do not watch.
Yeah, I don't watch it either. But one of the judges is Katy Perry. And apparently there was some sort of gas leak evacuation during the show's auditions happening. And she appeared, according to CNN, she appeared to fall to the ground, aka pass out. According to CNN, Katy Perry asked everyone, do you smell gas? It's pretty intense. And then one of the other judges, Luke Bryan, was like, it smells like heavy propane. But the smell kind of started to affect Katy Perry, and she started to get a slight headache, and then she like fell to the ground. She said she wasn't feeling good and literally passed out.
That's wild. Listen, gas leaks are scary. I was once at my neighbor's house. Like, one of our neighbors is a little bit more elderly, and we went over to his house, and like from the outside you could smell gas, and then we went inside and it was just like heavy, and like you, that shit starts to like, you can feel that in your head like right away, depending on how sensitive you are and depending on how much gas is coming out. And so we called the fire department and everything, and they had to fix a leak in the furnace. And but like, if you don't touch that, like, you can get poisoning and die from it. If they all evacuated soon enough, that's good. But yeah, it's kind of crazy because usually on sets, especially sets with celebrities, they like triple check that everything's good about the venue, the location, you know, the food, the catering, everything. And for there to be a gas leak and nobody to have noticed it before she was like, do you guys smell that? You know what I mean? It's a little bizarre. Trust your nose. If you think you are smelling gas, you gotta do something about it. Don't just be like, oh, I'm being a little crazy. Because worst case scenario, you are going a little crazy. And then at least you know?
So obviously, those of you that know or don't know, Jussie Smollett is an actor. He has a lot of fame from the show Empire with Terrence Howard and Taraji P. Henson.
In January of last year, so 2019, Jussie received a letter. Well, I mean, he did receive it, but now we don't know who sent it. But it contained homophobic language. It was racist. So Jussie is a black gay man. He's an actor. Like Lydia said, he's on Empire, or he was on Empire, and he received these letters, apparently had white powder in them. So anyways, it was great cause for alarm, and it started circulating around social media. And later that month, Jussie was attacked and hospitalized, and he said that he was attacked by two men who were racist and homophobic, and that it was a hate crime. Now, I remember when this first came out last year, it was super big news, big headline, made a big splash. What is interesting about this is that a couple months later, people started questioning, including the police, whether this attack had been perpetrated by Jussie himself, as in if he had paid these two men to beat him up, if he had sent himself those letters in order to, you know, kind of create a headline, make a statement about racism and homophobia and about LGBTQ, and especially being an LGBTQ minority.
Yeah, and even at the end of February of 2019, the brothers that were accused of committing the attack actually came out to CBS Chicago and said that Jussie was the one who sent the letters himself, and that the attack was orchestrated because the letters didn't make enough of an impact or enough of a reaction from the public. So then Jussie became the suspect in this case, and I'm sure some of you have been following along with everything that's been going on. He was arrested at the end of February, so really the timeline is not that long. He was cut from the final episode of Empire, so Fox at least acted really quickly in terms of, on their end, from a publicity standpoint, making sure he wasn't associated with the show any longer. But then in March of 2019, he pled not guilty, and there was like 16 felony counts of disorderly conduct that he was facing. And all the charges were dropped in March of 2019.
The other crazy thing is that had he been found guilty, he could have faced up to 50 years in prison if all 16 counts had been found guilty by a jury. But
then on February 11th of this year, he was indicted by a special prosecutor, which was interesting because it was almost a year to the day of the initial arrests being made in the case. So where we are now is that Smollett is due back in court on February 24th, and if convicted, he could face jail time.
Wow.
There's a lot. So obviously this recent indictment has caused a lot of talk. And I would say, I mean, it's a very much of a blanket statement, but I would say that the majority of people are siding against Jussie and saying what he did was wrong. And I know we're about to get into this and explain, but I watch a lot of talk shows, and I was watching The Real, which is a show that films in California, and it has a panel of people like Lonnie Love, Adrienne Bailon, Tamira Mowry, Jeannie Mai, and Amanda Seales. Amanda Seales, who's the newest co-host, she's a comedian, actress from Insecure. She actually made a point that she felt that even if this was a hoax, and even if Jussie completely made all of this up, that she thinks it's low-key noble because of the double standard that she brought up with Emmett Till's accuser. And Emmett Till obviously was the 14-year-old African-American that was lynched in Mississippi in 1955 for being accused of offending a white woman in her family's grocery store. And it came out later that Emmett Till's accuser was completely making that up. So I interpret Amanda Seales' take as like not revenge and not retaliation, but just kind of saying that what Jussie did was on a whole different scale than what the accuser of Emmett Till did, and the fact that Emmett Till's accuser is apparently still alive and obviously was never charged with any wrongdoing because of that time mentally and racially that we were in America, that there was just, she never was charged with anything. So I see her point. I do see Amanda's point in that. I personally don't agree with what Jussie did, and I don't think it was right, and I think that he should be charged for his wrongdoing in this, whatever that means. But I see her side of it. So, yeah, what do you think?
a very complex and honestly quite strange case, that somebody would actually cause themselves physical harm to bring awareness to an issue. It's like something in him had to be so craving to bring violence against LGBTQ minority to light, bring himself to light. For somebody to want to cause themselves harm in that way, it's like, what is his mindset? Like, why did he do this? If this is indeed all a hoax, if he orchestrated it himself, what was that push for him to say, like, I need to make a point about this issue? Now, I think it's hard because, I don't know, this is kind of controversial what I'm going to say, but for example, it's like when women fake having been raped or sexually assaulted, and then it comes out that they were lying about that, and all of a sudden people think, oh, well, we can't believe them because they're lying about it, and so many of them must lie about it if this one did. And so in that sense, I'm like, it could have hindered the minority LGBTQ movement and the LGBTQ movement in general, because these are hate crimes that happen very often in this country and a lot more in other countries too. Being gay is not legal everywhere, And so it's just like, does it take away from that? Because now people think it's a hoax. And people who don't encounter hate crimes every day, who might not be seeing this and might not really believe that they happen against LGBTQ people, might say, well, they don't happen. That guy was lying about it. He wanted more money. He wanted more attention. And that's why he did that. So it's really complicated. I mean, I don't agree with it. Like, I don't think that you should trick society for whatever the reason would be to try and make a point. I think there are ways of if this was really the point he was trying to make and he was trying to say something needs to be done about these hate crimes, bring somebody who has experienced a real traumatizing, life-changing hate crime and give them the voice, give them the platform to speak. Use your platform to bring awareness, but to have that be done to yourself, to pay for that, to be done to you, it's really strange.
It's so strange. And it would have been so much easier to do exactly that. Bring a true case that there was no slip-ups possible. Maybe it didn't cross his mind, but maybe it did that, oh, what if this doesn't work? What if I'm exposed that this was a hoax? It's so strange that he even sat down to think, let me make up this whole scenario. That to me is the craziest part, is that beyond what actually he did, it's who thinks to do something like this? Right. And I thought the same thing you did, that this could completely backfire and hinder everything that he was trying to make a point of. And yeah, it would have just been so much easier to take a true story.
I think the other thing is that, he pled not guilty and then the charges were dropped. So nothing has been said for certain about this yet. I think a lot of people doubt him. I think there's compelling evidence against him. However, there is also the question of, and maybe more will come out with this current indictment and this current trial, but maybe this really did happen to, there is a chance, there's compelling evidence against him, but what if it did happen, and what if society's reaction to that was well, you must have made it up because you're a Black gay man. It's really I still can't fully wrap my mind around this scenario because it's so strange and unique and doesn't seem to have helped the cause that he was trying to bring awareness to.
Exactly, because either way, it's about now the focus on him in the case. Right. Nothing of, him, and
did he lie? And he's
right.
a liar,
And if homophobia and racism is brought up, it's an asterisk to this case itself. Part of me is thinking now, what if another one of his points was the believability factor? At least that's now part of the conversation too. I think in a bad way though. So stay tuned for what's going to happen in that case. We definitely will be looking out, and perhaps we'll bring it up again. So let's do some savage seconds. Okay, if you know me and you've ever eaten in my presence, you better not be biting your fork when you take your bites. There is nothing I can't stand more than that. Ooh, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. It's like when people scrape their teeth on forks or any kind of silverware when they eat to get the food off the fork. How is that enjoyable? You better use your mouth and suck that shit off, because you are not. Ooh, that little teeth scrape. I cannot. Like, literally, it.
I hate passive aggression or aggression in general targeted towards other people on
social media.
It makes no sense to me. Why are you using a platform to talk to an individual that you could just walk up to and talk to in person? And then when you see them in person, you act like you don't understand, or that, you know, that nothing ever happened. It's stupid. Just talk to each other, people.
Yay, we beat it. I feel like I never beat it, but you always
It's
do.
like I see those like last 3 seconds coming, and then I like try and get my thought out too quickly. And luck? I don't know anything about luck. I've never banked on it, and I'm afraid of people who do. Luck to me is something else. Hard work and realizing what is opportunity and what isn't.
And then mine is another unknown quote, but I saw it on my cousin's Instagram story and I loved it. And it says, "Consistency is harder when no one is clapping for you. You must clap for yourself during those times. You should always be your biggest fan." Which is something to always remember. You can have people in your corner and you can have people rooting for you, but at the end of the day, no one's going to fight for you harder than yourself. And don't take that as you don't have any support. Just take it as you are your biggest fan, like it says. And always remember that. So thank you guys for listening to another great episode with me and Margot.
And that is our show.
Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at popoffsis.podcast and our personal accounts at Lydia__Parker
and at Trouvé. Be sure to check out all of our episodes at popoffsis.wixsite.com/website. Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time.